Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by.
We are hanging out with a guy who started Kajabi. So, J.Cron, let's get right into it. Who are you? What's your deal? Why are you hanging out with me here today?
Well, I mean, I'm hanging out with you because you told me that I'd get a free dinner or a bowl of soup or something if I showed up. So, obviously that's why I'm here. But no, I've known Kenner a long time. And when you reached out and said, hey, man, let's jam on entrepreneurship, fun, creator economy, all the kind of stuff that I'm passionate about, why would I not hang out and have some fun with you?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's totally awesome. Well, give me a little bit of background. Tell me a little bit about you, and then let's get rocking.
Sure. So background's pretty simple. Grew up northwest suburbs of Chicago, moved to California when I was 15, had a variety of sales positions, just being confronted by moving from an area where a S-Class may as well have been a spaceship to moving to an area where it was a Newport Beach Honda Accord, and had always a passion for entrepreneurship. Was always trying to start businesses when I was a kid. That culminating in becoming the vice president of sales for a mortgage bank at 2007. Everyone knows how that story ends. So all the real estate and cars went back to the bank. I filed bankruptcy and went into the world of online marketing, largely because of the amount of marketing I received as a mortgage broker, and then leading me into that universe. And fortunately met some amazing mentors. Joe Polish was who launched me in the world of online marketing, and kind of let me follow him around like a lost puppy dog, and ended up primarily being on the customer of Kajabi side of things. So met Kenny Reeder, my best friend, founder of Kajabi, in probably 2010, and actually was working with companies that were using Kajabi as a customer. So think online curriculum, training, author, coach, consultant, expert businesses. And so Kenny and I stayed friends for, better part of 6 years. I did consulting for Kajabi in that period of time. He fired me to work with a shinier consultant named Frank Kern. They then hired me back as VP of Biz Dev. I said I quit a week later because I got offered the CEO role of digital marketer in Austin, Texas. So in that 6-year period, he fired me. I quit. We were even. And then come tail end of 2016 was transitioning out of Success Magazine in Dallas, because the one promise I made my wife is, I could pursue my career as long as I didn't ask her to move out of Orange County, and Success Magazine wanted me to move to Dallas. So I had been renting an office from Kajabi. Kenny walks in on a Monday like, hey, dude, how's your weekend? I'm like, well, got to figure out what I'm going to do next. I'm not moving to Dallas. He said, well, you've grown a lot and done a whole bunch of stuff. We've grown a lot, done a whole bunch of stuff. I really think this could be a thing, and I think we should work on it together, and it's easier than moving your shit out of the office. And so that was in mid-2016. By September 2016, joined as partner and president. At the time, we were doing $6 million in ARR, 25 team members. And then when Kenny and I stepped out of our operating roles to go to board positions in July of 21, we had grown to north of 100 million in ARR, 400 team members, and a $2 billion valuation with partners like Spectrum Equity, Tiger Global, TPG, Owl Rock, Meritech, and Tidemark. And a whole bunch of fun. We can cover, any aspect of my journey you think would be helpful for your audience. Open book, happy to dive in.
Whoa, dude. There's some of that stuff I didn't know. Wow. Let's start from the beginning.
Well, that's exactly the goal. Like, I'm on your podcast. The least I can do is surprise you. So.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. So would you say, and this is totally free flowing, right? Would you say you're at heart, you're an entrepreneur? Obviously you are one now. Did you kind of grow into it? What's your deal there?
So I would say that I would qualify myself as an entrepreneur, but I would add some caveats. So when I look at my early years, I loved the idea of entrepreneurship. So I can remember going to a Lutheran elementary school, which of course, private school, every quarter there's some bullshit fundraiser, whether it's sell the wrapping paper, sell the Easter candy, sell whatever, walkathons, any of that. And I would always be like, Mom, Dad, all the kids have their parents, just kind of take care of it. And my dad's like, no, get your clipboard, go to door and figure the shit out. So I loved selling. I loved competing. I really enjoyed all of that. I mean, my first job was telemarketing for a timeshare company when all my friends were working at skate shops. So that's always been an exciting part of what I love about life, is coming up with an idea and seeing who will buy it. I would say that in my journey as an executive pre-Kajabi, in my journey with Kajabi, I would say I'm far better at the scale-up period than I am the startup period. I'm not the French pastry chef that is going to spend years of his life figuring out how many layers it takes to make the perfect croissant that's big yet light. I'm the guy that's the Burger King croissant sandwich of like, how do we sell that thing to 1 billion people through drive-through windows? So I would say that I believe I'm entrepreneurial, but I'm entrepreneurial in a band of experience where I believe I can be most impactful.
Yeah. So what are you selling right now, if anything? Meaning
right now, nothing. So went to a board position in July of 21. And, admittedly, it was something that I don't know that I had expected, but I'm grateful. I have a 3.5-year-old daughter, and I'm a workaholic, self-diagnosed. And I think that if I did not have that transition, I probably would have missed out on a lot of time with her. But I would say that right now has been a season of reflection, gratitude, and wrote a book. The book will be coming out in July. So what's next for me? That's the $1 million question. I don't know. I don't know if I'll find the thing that I'm so excited about that I would operate again and, kind of give up that freedom for a schedule, because that's definitely been a schizophrenic, on Monday, I'm ready to operate again. But, on Wednesday, I'm at swim class with my daughter. And by Friday, I'm having cocktails and thankful I'm not operating. So that might happen. I would say advising and working with companies that I can be impactful and important, but not necessary. That appeals to me the most. That I would love to find companies that I can invest, advise, but not be on an org chart. Because if I had a magic wand, I wish that on weeks that I was like, I don't have a lot going on, I really would love to dive in on some companies, make some campaign improvements, have some fun with things, and get that fix. But then on another week when it's like, okay, I really want to travel, just go to some restaurants, have some fun, I don't need to be operating. So I would love to have that flexibility. We'll see if I can pull it off. But that right now would be the closest thing I have to an answer on what's next.
I understand. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Your book, tell me the name and give me the specifics as to where I would get it, where other people would be able to get it.
So the book is called $1 Billion Bullseye, Grow as Big as You Want, as fast as you want, and exit if you want on your terms. And the book is really a retrospective of what Kenny and I learned building Kajabi. And the philosophy behind it, I always try to find something that's a metaphor that people can hold on to, is I use this idea of a dartboard. And everyone assumes the way that you would win at darts is to be good at darts. My belief is the way you win at darts is to have your bullseye that you're throwing at be larger than anybody else's. So your odds of increase as you hit it. And so the way that we've built the framework is kind of this idea of starting in the center with purpose, then profit, then product. Those are your core 3 rings that if you miss any of those, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. Then you've got your amplifiers, which is prestige, promotion, persuasion, and people, namely your customer experience, your marketing, your sales, and the hires that you make to run all of those systems. And the reason those are amplifiers is because if you don't have the core 3 nailed, you can't rely on these amplifiers to save you. You'll notice this in companies that typically stall out, where they didn't really have a great product. They just had a great marketing campaign. Or they weren't ever profitable, but they just had a really good sales strategy. Or they didn't have a product, weren't profitable, but they hired great people and hoped for the best. Those are businesses that will achieve varying levels of success. But if you miss any one of these rings, you're going to miss the multiplicative effect that they have on your organization. So the book is meant to be just a operating system of where to focus when and how to know if you've nailed it.
And did you say that's coming out, or it's out now, by the way?
Coming out. It'll be out in July. So it's February now. And, what I've learned is that despite how fast everything in life moves, the book publishing industry has not adapted to any of that. And it still moves ridiculously slow.
Yeah, I understand. So I bet you that's going to be, we might even, if it's okay, we might even have you back on when the book's out.
I would love to do it.
All right. So, well, I mean, you're way young, obviously along your journey, life's journey. But what?
Not that young, dude. I'm now, gosh, I'll be 43 this year. I mean, I
Oh,
feel like I think the thing about age that really messes with you is when you start turning over birthdays that you can remember your parents turning. Like,
yeah.
I can remember being in my backyard in Illinois, seeing my dad smoking a cigar, playing cornhole, which back then was called Polish bocce, not cornhole.
Yeah.
And that was for his 40th birthday. And he had all of his friends from the auto industry, and everyone's having this big party in the backyard. And I remember, like, oh my gosh, my dad is so old. And now I'm about to turn 43, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm so old. So it's been a weird thing.
I do hear what you're totally saying. I hear what you're saying. So what would you have done differently along the entrepreneurial journey at this point, looking back? That's a tough question.
I would probably say if I knew then what I know now, I would have handled a couple of things significantly differently. And I don't know if it would have turned out as well because I'm very happy with the way it went, but I'll give you a good example of an object lesson of immature me and now more mature me and my perspective. So in 2007, when the mortgage market completely came undone, I pretty much abandoned the entire mortgage industry and went into online marketing and, you know, the sort of the expert or creator economy, which wasn't called that then, but is now.
Yeah.
And so it was a massive transition. Whereas in the mortgage business, I had pretty much spent 3 to 5 years getting good in this space, in this industry. And what you find is when you transition into a different industry, you start over. And realistically, it's going to take you 5 to 10 years to be any good at anything. And so back then I was like, this industry is bad. It's hopeless. It's never going to be the same. I'm out, going to online marketing. And I think that at the time made sense to me. But looking back on it, I think that there were a lot of other ways that could have been handled differently. So I now look back and I know friends of mine that rather than firing all of their loan officers, they took this sales floor of people that they had and they transitioned into loan modifications, which was a season of a few years that then created an opportunity for loan modifications. And then when loan modifications were no longer available, they transitioned that sales floor into debt settlement. And they did very, very well in debt settlement. And then when debt settlement started to change, it was right around the time that rates had dropped again post-Great Recession, and the refi boom was on its way back up. And all of a sudden, refinances were hot again. And then as refinances started to kind of wax and wane as we headed into COVID, you then saw the employee retention credit opportunities come out. So had I known that it wasn't just the mortgage business per se, but that it was a system of salespeople that were financially knowledgeable based on the mortgage side of things. There were iterations that could have been different than company shuts down, I'm bankrupt, and I'm moving to an entirely new industry starting over. I could have gone through those iterations and handled it very differently. But I think at that time, I didn't have that type of a vantage point on life to recognize that when something like that happens, it creates opportunity, not necessarily, oh, that's a fatal flaw. I'm going to just scrap everything and go somewhere else.
This is going to sound weird, but it's probably a good thing that you were bankrupt. And you, by the way, that's an incredible story.
I'm not mad about it. Like, don't get me wrong. It's more like what could I mine from the journey that if I was faced with a systemic transition of some kind, I would now look for the opportunities that their transition would create rather than look for an easier path elsewhere, I guess is what I'm saying. That was sort of the foundational learning.
I'm sure you don't take it for granted now, all your success. And I'm sure, I get that. I'm sure you envelop where you are so much more because of your past, you know?
Well, bankruptcy for somebody like me was a very helpful journey. And it was one of those things, I would even say I would have called it helpful even before I had any validation that I would find my way out of it. I think that if you look at the journey, it initially started with everybody else being at fault. You know, the economy had failed, the industry had failed. I was, a victim, a passerby in this collateral damage kind of thing. And I realized about 6 months in, there was really no power or benefit in that until I was like, well, actually, no, it as hard as it is all my fault. Like, I overinvested in over-leveraged real estate. I didn't save nearly enough. I didn't ask, could an industry disappear? I just assumed if I lived on less than I made, I would be fine. So then all of a sudden it became a very empowering thing to realize, like, no, that was on me. And if it was on me, I can do it again, and I can do it differently, and I can have a whole lot more maturity around what's happening to me. So it was a very instructive period in my life. And I think it also is something that when you grow up in what I would call, although being middle class growing up, finances were always a hot button. Like, they were never, managed well in my life. And so I think that always prompts you to be afraid of, oh my gosh, it's going well. What happens if it doesn't? What happens if I lose it? Will I survive life if somehow it all came undone? And then when it all comes undone, it's not pleasant. It's not like something I would sign up for fun. But it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. Like, I mean, yeah, it was hard to, go from living in multiple homes to an apartment. It was hard to go from, dining out at Michelin star restaurants to getting frozen El Pollo Loco chicken balls from Costco and eating half for lunch and half for dinner. Like, there were transitions that were not fun, but a hot shower still felt great. I could still go for a run, have a good time. Like, life didn't end because this financial thing ended. And I think that once that fear goes away of the what might happen, it just allows you to risk bigger and take more chances, take more at bats, because you're like, well, all right, it's not the end of the world. And, you can fail big or fail small. It's still going to be failure. You may as well try and fail bigger. So
that's exactly right. That's an important lesson right there. That's funny you waited till the end to say that. I agree with that. I mean, if you're going to fail, you might as well fail big. If you're going to, you never know. You might be able to hit a home run, Well,
and that is something that I do think a lot of people are unaware of, is that it is every bit as complex to launch something small as it is to launch something big. It is every bit as difficult, every bit as challenging. There's no effort points rewarded in the equation. Like, if you're going to go through the stress, you may as well pick something that can achieve the result you want versus just get you closer to the result you want.
Yeah. Speaking of, success, let's talk about Kajabi a little bit. Tell me a little bit about like what you saw during your journey. Was it 5 years? I guess it was. Around 5 years. Sure. Tell me about that fight from nothing, basically, or relatively speaking, to all of a sudden something huge. Like, tell me.
Well, we were disproportionately benefited by a few trends that were not really part of our control. That when you think about Kajabi and the industry that it served, there was no question that it was going to revolutionize what it was replacing. The industry pre-Kajabi was workbooks, DVDs, sent in the mail, physical goods. And so as broadband internet became more and more and more, proliferated, you had a lot more opportunities to serve up educational content in ways that you couldn't before. So those trends are absolutely going to happen, and they're going to continue to happen. But what also shifted significantly was we began to see a flywheel effect within our business that, I've called the, perpetual promotion machine, but it was this idea where, and Kenny gets credit for naming the program brilliantly. It was our Kajabi Hero program, where we recognized our users and just sent out a t-shirt, said, hey, online entrepreneurship is lonely, a lot of hours staring into your computer. We're here to celebrate you and tell you you're on the right path. It's super awesome. Way to go. And as that hero recognition program grew, which now has, probably 15 different levels of recognition of business growth, it also gave us the opportunity to ask people if they'd like to be part of our partner program. And our partner program was our referral program of, you're teaching something on a platform, and odds are other people are going to learn from you. But as they're learning whatever you're teaching, they're going to be saying, wait a second, I've got things I can teach. I've got knowledge, I've got experience, I've got things that people would be benefited by me sharing. Odds are they're going to want to know what platform they could teach it on. Why not share with everybody the platform you're using and be paid for doing so? So we ended up with this, we're going to recognize you, and then we're going to ask you to tell people what's prompting the success of your business. who are then going to join and bring more success to your business. And it became this flywheel of celebrating people that then turned into partners, that then gave more exposure to celebrate more people, to then turn into more partners. And that was one of the huge growth engines that built the company, was just really being able to recognize our customers for what they're doing. And not to mention the fact, like many businesses, COVID really prompted a lot of disruption in the universe, and it brought about an urgency for digital first versus digital someday. That there were tons of businesses, tons of educational institutions, tons of people that were caught completely flat-footed because it was like, oh yeah, well, we'll get to digital. But right now it's good enough to hand out a workbook in a classroom and we'll do that. As all of a sudden everyone's at home asking, how am I going to learn? What do I need to learn? How do I position myself for this new normal that we're in? Kajabi was a company that had a whole lot of people that were teaching a whole lot of cool things. And, our users were beaming fitness content into homes before everybody could only work out at home. And our instructors were beaming meditative content, educational content, career growth content, hobbyist content, all of the things that people were interested in. And it all of a sudden brought this onslaught of people into this universe that was always there. They just didn't have an urgency or reason to explore it. So we were a massive beneficiary of that move to go digital. And I think it's something as well that we're now seeing the fruits of that labor even taking on a life of their own. So when you think about going digital, but now also seeing a shift in the perception of what digital education is, because I would say that pre-COVID, 2019, 2018, those areas, there was still this idea of, oh, well, why would you sell a course? Just, put your content out there for everybody else. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not going to find a thought leader in any industry that doesn't have their book, their email newsletter, their website, potentially a course for purchase or a coaching or consulting opportunity. It's almost become in vogue to have a personal brand and to have people have revenue-driven opportunities to engage with you. And I would say for us at Kajabi, we always believed that world would come, and we're now just seeing it happening. So where I think a lot of private equity or finance right now is saying, oh, well, what's this creator economy really going to be? How's it going to go? I actually have never been more bullish on it, because I have never seen more people that I like and respect that, quite frankly, don't need the money from selling their time or packaging their courses, but they have it now because it's an acceptable way of engaging with the world around you. So I think we've only begun to see the start of what that's going to look like.
What I would say is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you didn't say the word, which is surprising, community. I think you guys were the first kind of player putting a community around you, and I think you guys grew based on your community. And you guys,
that's a failure on my part, because the Kajabi Hero program and our Facebook group was the community, and it's something that is hugely powerful. I mean, we've now done 2 user summits, which have been absolutely spectacular to get people together in real life for that. But I couldn't agree with you more, because I think, and everyone always asks me, well, what's AI going to do to this universe? The reality of it is authenticity is the new currency. And
yep, totally.
While people enjoy engaging with AI, people also know that AI's never experienced being human. They've never needed to work out when they were tired. They've never needed to get their kid to go to sleep because they had a big meeting tomorrow. They've never had 4 cups of coffee because they needed to get something done. AI is going to give you the recipe, but it's not going to make you a chef. Yeah. And I think that as we look at this universe today, the prevalence of information has never been greater and will only get more so. But the desire for actual interactivity, I think, is going to ramp up massively. And I mean, when you look at what Napster did that then led to Spotify and Pandora, all of a sudden music got so commoditized because it's all in my hand. So all of the money moved to concerts. All of the money moved to actual human experiences. I think AI is going to do the same thing for information, that when it's all there, all available, and some giant computer spits it out, that's going to prompt me even more to want to go find a human being that I can connect with for the experience I'm having.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We've been doing AI for years. And we believe that AI is helpful, et cetera, but there's going to be more community built around kind of the foundation maybe of AI, computers, et cetera. But there's going to be even more of a need for community. That even means more for people like Kajabi, shareholders, users, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's something too that I think what we're most excited about is seeing the amount of choice that's being given to the general public for them to have an opportunity to create the curriculum or learning experiences that matter to them. That it's no longer my only path is I'm going to go to college and I'm going to have to take 800 classes I don't want to get to the 2 classes that I do want to then have a career related to that. I think that as we see, Peter Diamandis calls it the rising billions, but the amount of billions of people that are going to be coming online with broadband internet over the course of the next 5 to 10 years that have never had it. And all of those people are going to want the exact same things we want today. They're going to want their passions, their progressions, their proficiencies. All of those things are going to be desired to be learned. And those are the things that power our industry. So as you can tell, very bullish on the world as Kajabi sees it, for sure.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So we only have a couple minutes. Bummer. You have so many things we could share. So how about this one, and I'm going to have you on after your book, if that's okay. So what's one takeaway for you as an entrepreneur, not only with Kajabi, just in general, because you've got such an interesting story. What's the one thing that you would impart to, let's say, either a brand new entrepreneur or someone who's been an entrepreneur for whatever, 20 years?
So this is my opportunity to try and encapsulate something and sound smart. So let's see how I do. I would say the one thing that I believe I say that is fairly original, maybe taken, maybe borrowed, maybe a remix of something else. But I would say that what I've learned is that success is one of the only things in life that you won't know how much it costs until after you've paid the price. And what's funny is you actually have to commit to paying it before you know what it costs. So you're actually going to commit to a journey where you may be looking at somebody else that did it in 12 months or 12 years. And you don't know if it'll be 12 months for you or you don't know if it'll be 12 years. But if you don't agree to buy it, regardless of the price, you're never going to have it. And I think that that's the part for me that is the most difficult. And I'll even make it a little bit more personal. You know, my brother, unbelievable guy. He's a supply officer in the Navy, did Naval ROTC, went through UCLA, and now is coming up on the end of a decade-long naval career. And it's like, well, what do I do next? And he's seen me in my entrepreneurial journey. And I'm like, you got to know, I don't know what your price will be. I don't know how long it will take you. I don't know how many failures it will require. I know that if you don't give up, eventually you will have it because life won't keep it from you. But I can't tell you what it's going to cost or how long it's going to take. And that's the part about being an entrepreneur that I think is the hardest to communicate because we live in this world today where everyone wants the highlight reel and that's all everybody focuses on. Yeah. Like everybody's got the social media reel with the photos in Bali and the doors that go up on the cars. And people are like, that's entrepreneurship. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, not even a little bit. So I think that's the hardest part is being an entrepreneur means you are going to stare into the abyss. You are going to decide to purchase something that you won't know what it will cost you, and you'll only know after the price has been paid. But I would say that if that doesn't scare you off, entrepreneurship is the greatest transformational force in the world, and it might be the only thing that saves it. We definitely all agree that it will never be politics. It will never be the media, that all of the structures that are supposed to do it have failed. So the only thing that might fix it is you starting the business you care about and positively impacting the customers that you will serve because it's going to make you better and them better. And that's the only hope we've got.
Holy mackerel, dude, you're the man. That was really good. Wow. How about in closing, how does someone, one, buy your book and maybe a website that someone can go to?
Well, thank you for asking. When the book comes out, I'm sure there'll be some websites and things that I haven't built yet, but I'm on J.Cron.com, JCron.com, or, hit me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I mean, I'm not famous, so still very accessible and always love engaging with people that I can help. So thanks so much for having me on here, Kenner. For those of you that don't know Kenner well, but are getting to know him better through this podcast, you're talking about one of the most brilliant thought leaders in the tax and estate planning world. He's been leveraging AI since before anyone was talking about AI. So if you've got anything that would be benefited by better estate planning, better tax strategies, or better asset protection, Kenner's your guy. I can't say enough good things about him.
Dude, you're the man. Thanks, man. That's awesome. Dude.